So then I'm also interested because you set up the premise that there's this tension between her love interests
Yes.
and that she and Paul have an open relationship. But of course, that's a term that is a 21st century term, I think.
Yeah.
So how did you approach writing, like a what we would call a polyamorous relationship
Mhm.
in an era when they had maybe different language or a different understanding of what that is?
Yeah, there's never any labels in her and Paul's relationship because, like, truthfully, it didn't exist. She does use the word in her internals, like, she uses the word exclusive. Like, she's like, I wonder if he wants to be exclusive with me or like what it would take for us to be exclusive. So she does use that word, which is a little bit of a modern construct, but like, it could still apply, I feel like, in someone's head. There's a threesome on page in this book, and it is not with the hero of the story. So, Kat and Paul have an open relationship where one, he sends her off to seduce Marks, like knowing that it's never going to be serious, it's never going to be a true threat to him, which this book shows that that is not the case. And then they also occasionally they let another member of the wolf pack into their bedroom with them, and they have a threesome relationship with another guy who they're very, very close friends with. And it was really important to me to put that on the page when I wrote this book. I was originally trying to get this book traditionally published, and at one point, my agent, no editors on submission, no editors ever complained about the polyamory. But at one point, my agent had suggested perhaps we take it out, and I wasn't willing to do it because with these characters, the wolf pack, the gang that she's in, they grew up together from childhood, and they grew up in very, very difficult circumstances, and they're bonded together like you wouldn't believe. And it's just another way that they show love and express the way that they feel their closeness with this other member of their gang. Kat's not in love with the other man the same way that she feels about Paul and Matt, but it is a really interesting dynamic that just shows the depth of the loyalty and the love that they share. So I approached writing it in a time period that you don't typically see a whole lot of this. I mean, it was happening behind closed doors. There just aren't really labels, and it is very closely discussed, like the motivations and the types of feelings. She dives very deep into laying out how she feels about these different people and why she's making the choices that she's making. So that's how I approached it. No labels, but putting it on the page and doing my best to do justice to it.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because in romance, I think we generally understand that sex on the page is also metaphorically doing work to show
Hmm.
intimacy of a relationship. And we also have romance novels where most romance novels also have very strong friendship or family dynamics that are also explored.
Yeah.
And so I like that you are daring to pull the sex and the friendship and, say, well,
Yeah.
these things can be
Yes.
commingled.
It was really important to me. I never wanted any of the sex in my book to be gratuitous. Like, I completely agree with you. Sex in a romance novel is doing work. And the sex scenes in this book, they're all doing work. The third member, his name is Abe. He does appear in the offing of the sample I read. He comes out and says it on the page in the book. It's one of my favorite moments. He says that, when I was young, which is when they started hooking up, the three of them, he's like, when I was young, I thought that physical intimacy was the ultimate. That was how you express that you love someone completely. But I'm older now, and I've learned, like, my love for you doesn't need to be physical to prove that it's there. But that's where it started for them. Like, when you're young, everything's just passionate, and they love each other so much, this criminal found family. So I think it makes perfect sense that they dipped their toe a little bit into that world, and then as they mature, they step back and they stop hooking up. Cat eventually monogamy prevails at the end of this book as she falls for one person more deeply than everyone else. But yeah, there's a very interesting exploration of many different kinds of love on the page of this book.
And did you ever consider not having monogamy prevail?
I did because I'm not a plotter. This book was pantsed. So there was even a point, like, I knew when I set out to write, like, I thought I knew what the happily ever after looked like in my head, but I will say Abe, he's my favorite character in the book. I love him. And there was even a point where I was like, oh my God, like, maybe, yeah, maybe she ends up with him, or this open relationship is what prevails. So I just followed the voices of the story, really. And as I kept writing, it does become clear, like, the question of every romance for me, like at the heart of every romance is why is this person, why is this relationship, and it could be a relationship with multiple people. Why is this the right relationship that changes this person's life? So I had to look at it from what does Kat need? What are Kat's wounds? What are her fears? What is the lie that she tells herself? And who is the one who brings her into the light and answers those questions for her? And it was not ultimately a polyamorous HEA that did that for her. She has a lot of like damage and wounds, and she has to end up with the right person who can see her, understand her, and help her step into the future.